Tonight, Donald Trump threatens to block a new crossing between Canada and the U.S. What's behind the new taunt and what it could mean for trade talks?
This is really a swipe by the President of the United States, not just at Canada. It's a swipe at his own state of Michigan.
A vacation hotspot turned nightmare for Canadian travelers.
When we arrived, we had no hot water.
Why a major airline is suspending flights and which other air carriers are starting to scale back. And a rare royal intervention.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
What King Charles is saying about the Epstein fallout tied to his brother.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news and the new warning to Canada by the U.S. president. The opening of a nearly $6.5 billion bridge funded entirely by this country under threat tonight. Donald Trump declaring on social media this evening, "I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated." And also importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. We will start negotiations immediately. The Gordie Howe International Bridge would be the third crossing between Windsor, Ontario and Detroit, Michigan. Currently, there's a tunnel and the Ambassador Bridge. Its American owners claim the new bridge infringes on their exclusive right to collect tolls and have been fighting that in court for years. Let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelos. Now, Vassy, so much to unpack here. Let's get to the issue of compensation first. What kind of compensation is Donald Trump looking for?
Yeah, not a huge amount of clarity there, Omar, but 2 points that I think are worth making. First of all, I am told by a number of people in this government that though the backers of the Ambassador Bridge, the competing bridge, are supporters of Trump and his administration. The second point that's important to make is that the bridge is being paid for by Canada. Once it generates revenue through tolls, our costs will be recouped, but there's an agreement with Michigan to then start sharing revenue. So the idea of compensation, I'm not exactly sure how it extends beyond any of that.
Now, this seems to be quite an about-face, especially considering that Trump was a proponent of this project during his first term as president. He's got a long list of grievances in tonight's Post. How much of this is about the bridge, and how much is it about trying to extract concessions on other issues, especially in the run-up to the Kuzma review?
I'm really glad you raised that, because if you look at the text, as you point out, we've got Ontario banning alcohol or taking U.S. alcohol off the LCBO, dairy grievances around China. And then at the very bottom, what I'm being told by people in the federal government is the most important part of all of this. He says negotiations are going to restart. Remember, he killed negotiations with Canada on a sectoral basis, on any basis at the end of October. So the very fact that he is saying explicitly that this is about restarting negotiations, even though it comes after all those grievances, leads me to believe this is about a whole lot more than just the bridge, Omar.
All right, Vassy, appreciate the insight as always. Thank you. And tonight, the mayor of Windsor had this to say about Trump's post.
He's volatile, he creates uncertainty, and he doesn't mind lying to the public. And that's exactly what he's done here. Because at the end of the day, there's been thousands of hours of labor from residents in the state of Michigan and United States citizens who helped build their particular half. Steel from the United States went into their particular half. And so we truly are partners in this construction.
And south of the border, the Michigan governor's office echoed that, saying late tonight the Gordie Howe Bridge was built by union construction workers from both sides of the border, and it will be operated under a joint ownership agreement between Michigan and Canada. It's going to open one way or another. Canada's two biggest airlines are suspending service to Cuba as the island's main airport warns it is running out of fuel. CTV's Heather Wright on what it means for thousands of Canadians on vacation there right now.
This is just the latest sign of the dire situation unfolding in Cuba. There isn't enough fuel for airplanes to refuel on the island as the communist nation struggles during a deepening oil blockade.
We came to Cuba knowing what to expect. There's some things you'll have every day, some things you won't. I mean, that's a norm for here.
But what has been the norm is quickly deteriorating for the people who live in Cuba, with shortages of food, fuel, and medicine. Air Canada has announced it's suspending services and will send planes to repatriate the roughly 3,000 passengers still in the country. WestJet, including Sunwing, has suspended ticket sales to Cuba and will begin what it calls an orderly wind down of its winter operations there, while Air Transat has issued a travel notice allowing for flexible changes or cancellations. This all comes as Cuba experiences the worst economic crisis in nearly 70 years.
By the typical definition of what we think of as a failed state, Cuba is sort of on the cusp of it.
For decades, Venezuela had been the primary source of oil for Cuba, a source that was cut off when the United States captured Venezuela's president in January. Then U.S. President Donald Trump said he would impose tariffs on any country that sells or provides oil to Cuba, further depleting its sources of fuel. The government has closed some hotels and is relocating guests to save on resources. Fuel sales are being limited while school and business hours have been reduced. Tourism is critical to Cuba's economy, and those returning home worry about ordinary Cubans.
It's just really unfortunate because of the Cuban people, and they have so many shortages there as it is.
Cuba has said it is open to negotiating with the United States to end this oil blockade. Meanwhile, the government is telling its citizens to prepare for hard times beyond what they are experiencing now. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. A Canadian mining company has confirmed some of the workers who were abducted from a site in Mexico have been found dead. 10 workers were taken last month from a mine site owned by Vancouver-based company Vizsla Silver in the state of Sinaloa. The Mexican Attorney General's office said on Friday that human remains had been located, but did not say how many bodies were discovered. Police have arrested 4 people so far.
We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help.
That's Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie with a new social media plea before a ransom deadline came and went this evening. Guthrie's 84-year-old mother vanished from her Arizona home more than a week ago in a presumed kidnapping and hasn't been seen since. And the official cause of death for Canadian-born actress Catherine O'Hara has been revealed. The 71-year-old died last month from a pulmonary embolism related to cancer. That's when a blood clot blocks an artery in the lungs. An independent inspection will look into all 45 of Ontario's police forces after 7 officers were charged in a sweeping corruption investigation. Here's CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris.
Cars coming up behind.
They're bombshell allegations of corruption, bribery, conspiracy to commit murder, and drug trafficking involving Toronto police.
This is amongst the greatest betrayals that I've ever seen in my career.
The revelations of Project South and the arrest of 7 current and 1 former Toronto police officer have upended public trust.
Without that trust, it's almost impossible to serve your communities.
The fractures so deep, Ontario's Inspector General of Policing is launching an unprecedented review, not just of Toronto police.
We'll look at the entire sector across Ontario. Once the inspection is complete, the inspector will provide a findings report, which we will make public.
The monumental task of digging into every police service in the province will be done by someone yet to be hired, a movement to ensure
that this work is focused, that it is the top priority and only priority of this individual.
It adds some distance, too. Teschner is a former executive on the Toronto Police Services Board and swore in the current chief.
I think it's crucial right off the bat to make sure that if whoever they do decide to bring in, that is people or persons that have nothing to do with Ontario.
It's not clear when this new investigator will start their work.
That's a huge task. I mean, the OPP has 165 reporting locations alone.
The Toronto Police Chief welcomes the expanded scope triggered by Project South.
I'll be seeking the suspension without pay for 6 of the 7 members who have been alleged to have committed criminal offenses.
He is making some adjustments.
There's some very high-performing staff sergeants and sergeants have been reassigned to 12th Division effective immediately.
And Toronto police say they'll continue to be proactive to root out corruption.
We'll be getting recommendations as the work progresses and can begin implementing improvements right away.
Thank you so much.
Rather than wait for a report that could be years away. The union representing Toronto police officers worries that this review might be overly broad. Their president writes in a statement he doesn't want his members to be collateral damage for the bad acts of a few. Siobhan Morris, CTV News, Toronto.
King Charles broke his silence over renewed scrutiny linking his brother Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein. Buckingham Palace says the king is profoundly concerned and is ready to support police if approached. Today, police confirmed they're looking into allegations the former prince shared confidential information with Epstein when Andrew served as a UK government trade envoy. The king heckled by the public during a royal outing.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
King Charles stripped his younger brother of his titles in October. And the Prince and Princess of Wales have also weighed in for the first time, saying they too are, quote, deeply concerned and are focused on the victims, which was also Prince Edward's message last week when he became the first to break the royal family's silence about his brother's connection to Epstein. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has denied any wrongdoing.
That's why the distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change.
And pressure is mounting on British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to resign over his decision to make Peter Mandelson the ambassador to the United States, despite close ties to Epstein. Today, Starmer's director of communications quit a day after his chief of staff and closest advisor resigned, following the bitter fallout from the release of the Epstein files. And convicted Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer questions from the U.S. House Oversight Committee invoking the Fifth Amendment, but said she would speak fully and honestly if President Trump grants her clemency. And Donald Trump called the Super Bowl halftime show terrible and the worst ever. But despite the presidential backlash, Bad Bunny's performance is getting some rave reviews here in Canada. Millions of Canadians watched the big game, with some even adopting the winning team as their own. Here's CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson.
It was a Super Bowl-sized eruption in Seattle when their team won it all.
This is the best day of my life. Wish the best day. Amazing day. The Seahawks, Super Bowl champions.
The Gatorade spilled after a game that was anything but splashy.
The game wasn't very good.
A common complaint when defense is the star on the field, as it was for the Seahawks in shutting down the New England Patriots. But there was no lack of excitement at halftime. Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny, with the help of Ricky Martin, Lady Gaga, and incredibly elaborate set pieces, turned the show into a celebration of multicultural America, including an actual legal wedding ceremony and a shout out to every country in the Americas, including our own. A message not lost on Canada's Latin community, including Montreal's mayor, who busted out some moves of her own before the game.
He talked about what America is, and America is not the United States. It's all of us.
Bad Bunny, who's been critical of Donald Trump and the crackdown by immigration enforcement officers, ended with the message the only thing more powerful than hate is love. The U.S. president did not love the performance, calling it terrible, one of the worst ever, and a slap in the face. In Seattle and Vancouver, where Seahawks fans referred to as 12 North partied into the night at local bars, the most important message was victory.
There are, in fact, thousands of Canadian Seahawks season ticket holders, the majority here in BC, and we can expect many will be crossing the border to celebrate in Seattle on Wednesday at the Super Bowl parade, where officials expect up to 1 million fans. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And to the other big sports show, Canada has another Olympic medal after a gritty performance by freestyle skier Megan Oldham, who bounced back from a scary crash during her second run to win bronze in women's slopestyle.
This has been a dream of mine for so long, so I'm so proud of myself for putting a run down and being able to get up on the podium and bring home a bronze for Canada.
It is the first Olympic medal for the 24-year-old from Parry Sound, Ontario, and the second for Canada at Milan Cortina. And a potentially devastating blow to the medal hopes of Canada's women's hockey squad. Team captain Marie-Philippe Poulin left their game against Czechia with a possible knee injury after taking a hard hit in the first period. Canada won 5-1. And American ski star Lindsey Vonn says she needs multiple surgeries to fix a broken leg after her crash, but claims the accident had nothing to do with her decision to compete with a torn ACL. Vonn posted on Instagram, "I was simply 5 inches too tight on my line when my right arm hooked inside of the gate, twisting me and resulted in my crash." She added, "I have no regrets. The only failure in life is not trying." Coming up,
There's not enough room for us or for the baby.
How a family is coping after a water crisis forced them from their home. Tomorrow will mark exactly 1 month since a Northern Ontario family was evacuated from their First Nation because of a water contamination crisis. It's uprooted their entire lives, and the newest member of the family hasn't even been home yet. CTV's Adrian Gabriel explains.
That's where I live.
Evacuated on January 10th, this Kingston, Ontario hotel room is now the Stephen family's temporary home.
There's not enough room for us or for the baby.
On January 25th, little Axelson was born 1 month early. The family are also navigating the special needs of their older children. 12-year-old AJ is on the autism spectrum. His 3-year-old sister, Shirley Ann, is also on the spectrum and has been diagnosed with ADHD. There's also 2-year-old Bryce.
They're really out of their comfort zone, especially my son that's 12 years old. Doesn't go to bed, he doesn't feel safe.
Saskatchewan First Nation is located on a floodplain on the west side of James Bay in northern Ontario. On January 4th, a state of emergency was declared there amid concerns that sewage was seeping through taps into homes, contaminating drinking water. 2 weeks ago, test results revealed a parasite known as Cryptosporidium was found in water samples and is likely the cause of dozens of people becoming ill.
She got sick, yes. She got sick.
Contaminated drinking water has plagued this community for decades. In 2005, residents were forced to evacuate. CTV News was in Saskatchewan then and found multiple children with rashes believed to be brought on by water contamination. More than 20 years later, children are still believed to be suffering. Just days before this latest water crisis was declared, a similar rash broke out all over the body of 2-year-old Bryce Stephen. For decades, Indigenous leaders have asked the federal government to help relocate this community from the water plain it resides on. They're still waiting.
I hope the government sees this. I hope they all see.
A statement in part from Indigenous Services Canada says planning for the relocation of Saskatchewan First Nation continues under an agreement that dates back to 2019. For these children, yet another evacuation has left the village that used to help raise them scattered in hotel rooms across the province, with no clear timeline for when they'll find their way home. Some we've spoken with say they're triggered every time they turn on the tap. Following decades of trauma, they don't trust the water. Not here, not in Saskatchewan, not anywhere. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Kingston, Ontario.
Still ahead, a new look for an old favorite. Why the deep freeze has made Niagara Falls a red-hot attraction. One of Canada's most recognizable natural landmarks has become even more awe-inspiring lately. A spectacular byproduct of a brutally cold winter. CTV's John Venevalley-Rao explains.
The falls were already one of the world's most iconic natural wonders, a spectacular sight made all the more incredible by the deep freeze.
It's just unbelievable.
Ice encasing parts of the falls, turning them into a winter wonderland.
You gotta hate the weather, but you gotta find the beauty in it too, right?
With tourists willing to put up with downright frigid temperatures to see the falls transformed.
There's no Maid in the Mist here today because it's packed with ice.
After more than 3 weeks straight of below zero temperatures, ice has been building up amid the longest cold snap to hit Ontario in more than a decade.
Sustained cold temperatures, we're seeing minus 10, minus 15. In fact, last night was minus 20.
The falls haven't completely frozen over. The powerful flow of the water is still too strong for that. But the ice around the falls is the most seen since 2015. The waters here have only stopped completely once before in 1848 because of an ice jam. But other severe winters have seen partial freezes, where people have even ventured out onto the ice.
To imagine all that water freezing is just how cold the temperatures have been.
Shows you how cold it is.
And it's been so cold this winter, the Great Lakes are now more than half frozen over, with Lake Erie a whopping 95% ice covered. and it could freeze over for the first time in 3 decades. A massive crack formed over the weekend that could be seen from space, and winds have pushed huge sheets of ice onto the shore, creating massive mountains of ice. At the falls, there's been a surge of tourists.
Sometimes some will say to us this is their favorite time to see Niagara Falls because this is unique to see ice conditions like this.
And while it is expected to reach 1 degree here tomorrow amid a slight warm-up, so much ice is built up around here they expect it to last for many, many weeks to come. John Benavalli-Rouse, CTV News, Niagara Falls.
Spectacular and beautiful rainbows still ahead. Pandemonium at the Winter Olympics. Why these little souvenirs are in big demand at the Games. While athletes chase gold, another competition is unfolding that has pinned down a serious following at the Olympics. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry on a tradition that has sent collectors chasing.
An Olympic morning in Milan means, of course, competition. To these victors, the spoils, an exclusive city pin. To many others, broken hearts if they arrived too late for the prize.
Yes, we are trying this, but it's not going great for now. We don't have any pins for now.
The quest for Milan's perfect pin will take you all over the city. Each day here, there's a scavenger hunt of sorts where the city's tourism information board posts a new location in the morning and pin collectors congregate here to try to get a chance at a limited edition giveaway.
This morning in Milan's Navigli district, people waited hours for the small souvenir.
Well, they're giving them out and it's kind of a hunt for them, so it makes it fun.
Because I live in Milan, quindi I want these pins, all pins.
I love pins. I don't know, I love putting them on my clothes and it's an easy accessory.
Some have been doing this for decades. Meet Thomas Rondi, a pin collector for 14 Olympic Games running, with the hardware to show.
It's really interesting. People have so much fun at it, and it's not really official yet for the Olympics, and we're in a club called the Olympin, and we're trying to literally get it part of the Olympics officially.
You'll find him anywhere in this city, always open for pin trading business. Even CTV anchor Heather Butts got in on the action.
This is the Paralympic Winter Games from Vancouver 2010.
The deal done.
We'll do that trade, and then you trade, and then you have fun, and you say thank you very much.
But there's more business to do. Rondi says each Olympic city starts a little cold, but towards the end of the games, it's a full-on frenzy to get your favorite pin while you can. Garrett Barry, CTV News in Milan.
Heather knows how to make a deal. That's a snapshot of this Monday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.